the first video that we did about e-scouting or desk scouting, the idea was to take this unit and cut it down from this big 600 square mile area to something that's maybe 100, 200 square miles. And so you saw how we did that. And now the goal in this video that we want to show you is how we take this big part of the unit and we narrow it down even further, and how we give you flexibility where we aren't kind of planting all of our stakes in one spot. Now, before I go any further, the first thing I have to think about is, what season am I hunting? So I've told you for this example, I want it to be the late October rifle hunt. That is a post-rut hunt. Most of our elk hunting is across the West. Most tags are issued for the post-rut period, the last half of October. It's the hardest time to kill a bull elk on public land. What do elk need in the post-rut period? Well, they're looking for sanctuary and survival. If you think about that, that means they're looking to get away from roads and trails. I call them motors. Elk and motors don't mix. They've just figured it out. Yeah, you might find cows near roads and trails. You might find young bulls near roads and trails. And in other periods of the calendar, say the peak rut, you might find elk near roads and trails. In this post-rut period, I'm looking to get as far away from roads and trails as I possibly can. So I'm going to show you how I go about this process. So in New Mexico, like a lot of states, they have multiple seasons. This unit has had the early archery season. It's had the second archery season. Then most of New Mexico units either have a mobility impaired or a youth hunt, which is a rifle hunt. Then I know this unit had an early rifle season, which is mid-October. And I'm going there, in this example, on the late rifle season, which is late October. So there's been 4 other seasons before I get there. Well, that's going to have a big effect on what the elk are doing, where they've headed, what they find as a safe place to satisfy their needs. The basic formula for this requires you to understand what the needs are, because where an elk is going to be found is the place he can satisfy his need, his primary need, with the least amount of exposure to danger. It's that simple. So, all that said, we look at this map, and I'm left with the option of, okay, up here in this area, boy, there's a lot of country that doesn't have roads. And I kind of like that. But if I pretty much set my camp there, I might be dealing with a whole bunch of other hunters who have the same thought. So I don't really have a lot of options if it doesn't work out. I'm going to go over here, because if I set my camp somewhere in here, now I've got this option nearby, which has a lot of unroaded country, and I've got this option nearby that has a lot of unroaded country. So I'm just going with percentages here. This is like business 101, risk analysis. And I want to give myself every possible option in case I run into a bunch of other hunters who've had the same plan up here. Well, maybe I can drop down here. Or if I drop down here and run into a bunch of other hunters, maybe I can go over here. Okay, now I've cut it down to probably 100 square miles. So how do I take this 100 square miles and I drill it down to maybe 10 or 20 square miles? Look at the map and see where the old roads are. Even though the Forest Service travel management plan might have these roads closed, I'm always a little bit hesitant because compliance isn't always that great. So I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, got a road here, got a road there, got a road here, got a road there. I might focus more over here, just because if people are coming in from this main road over here, they're likely to hunt the first couple miles of here. They're likely to hunt within a couple miles of there. They're likely to hunt a couple miles of this road up here. This over here, this is gonna take a little bit of walking. So I'm gonna drill in even further and look. Yeah, that kind of looks like, yeah, that looks pretty good. Here's what I do, and this is just strictly for me to visually be thinking about where the problems might arise, where the opportunities might arise. So I'm gonna take this great big ugly paintbrush thing and I'm gonna make it red. And I'm just trying to get rid of anything that might be a road or within a mile of a main road or trail. So now you've seen us narrow this down from 600 square miles to a couple hundred square miles to now you see what's left on my map in this general location in the unit. Pretty obvious where I'm not gonna hunt and where I am gonna hunt. And in the next episode, what I wanna do is show you how do I arrive at my spots on the spot. In other words, when I show up there for a 5-day hunt, I wanna have 10 locations, 10 spots that I'm gonna scout hard and I'm gonna hunt hard. And I know that of those 10 spots, maybe only 2 or 3 or 4 of them are gonna hold elk. But at least now I've got the basics of a plan that are gonna allow me to be very effective here.